Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You had a customer install your app or mobile game 7 days ago, and you're wondering, has that customer logged in all 7 days for a perfect retention rate of 100%? So in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to figure that out with data. If you look at the analysis behind me, what we're doing is we're looking at installs from August and September of 2023. Then by days since install, we're looking at the percent of those days where they logged in or retained. So to explain this a little bit further, as you can see, when the days since install is 30, 29 or 30, only 10% of those days were retained or logged into. So a customer installed 30 days ago, they had an opportunity to log in 30 times. Instead, they only logged in 10% of those times with 3 login days. So this is extremely important because it helps you to compare the retention between paid install cohorts. So I'm going to show you how to do this now in MySQL. Okay, so we're going to start with an installs table. Alright, so the very first thing we're going to do is select the very first install instance per customer. So we will be using a min aggregate function to identify the very first or earliest install date per customer. And then let's make sure to group by. And let's return a couple of records. Okay, great, this is working. So the next thing we need to do is we need to filter these installs for just customers that installed either in August or September of 2023. So there are many different ways to do this, and I'm going to show you one. So when we do this, we're basically taking today's date and we are resetting it to October 1st, 2024. So from here, we are going to go back 13 months to September 2023. And we are going to do this again, but go back 14 months to August 2023. We can call this first month and then second month. And I'm doing this because I want you to visually see the values. Let's make sure to add this into the group by as well. Remove these column names. Let's make sure to add commas here. And here we are, we have the customer, their install date, or their very first install instance. And then we have the value September 1st, 2023, and then August 1st, 2023. So what we're going to ideally do is we're going to use these two columns to filter this data. So we're going to take this install date and we're going to reset it to the first of the month, and it has to equal either this value or this value so that we only get installs from August or September 2023. So let's put this in a subselect. We will call it installs. Let's grab our columns. All we need is our column names, so we can delete all this other stuff. Let's make sure to add the installs prefix, the name of our subselect. And here's what we're going to do. So in our where clause, we're going to reference our install date, but we have to reset it to the first day of the month. So we'll do this. And then we'll say it has to be either September 1st, 2023 or August 1st, 2023. So in one of these two columns. Okay, cool. So that addition to our where clause successfully filtered our data. As you can see here, if we look at the install date column, we're only seeing installs from either August or September of 2023. Cool. So knowing that this worked, we actually don't need these two columns anymore. They've served their purpose. And let's go ahead and actually bring across more data. So the very next thing we need to do is we need to bring across dates that are greater than this install date and run up through the present. So we've got a date table that we're going to use to do this. It is called dim date. And we will do a left join. So remember, we're actually doing this left join here and then also filtering the data here in this where clause. We can do both at the same time. It's all good. We're going to call this dates. On dates.date has to be greater than the installs.install date. And then we're going to bring across these dates. Let's run a few records to make sure this worked. Okay, doing good. Let's actually look at one player example. Say where the customer ID equals 70 70 32 8695. And then we're going to order this by the date field from our second table, table 2. Okay, it's doing exactly what we want. We have this customer with an install date of August 5th, 2023. And then we have all date values that are greater than August 5th, 2023, starting at August 6th, 2023, stretching all the way up through the present. Great. Okay, so we're comfortable to continue. Let's call this entire subselect guess. And now what we want to do is per customer, per install date, and per date, which is stretching from the day after installation all the way through the present. For each one of these dates that are incrementing up to the present day, we want a running count of total login days, or total days that they've interacted with your mobile game, app, or online business. So we're going to need to join to a customer login table. And for us, it's going to be in the same mobile games database, but the table will be called fact player logins. So let me show you this table now, just a few sample records. So we have each customer and then their login dates. We'll do a left join and call this logins, and we'll do it on the customer ID. And the logins / login date from table 2 has to be less than or equal to the guest.date field. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do logins.login date, and we will do a count. Call this cumulative logins, and then we will group this. Okay, so let's go over this join one more time. So we were joining on customer ID between the two tables, that makes sense. And then the login date from table 2 has to be less than or equal to this running date right here. And then based on this date, we're going to do a count of total login dates from table 2. And it'll be a running total or a cumulative value. So let's run a few records now. Okay, here's our data. So we have each customer and their install date, and for every install date, we have all of the leading dates, or dates that begin one day after the install date and run all the way up through the present moment. So for each one of these dates, we are going to table 2, and we are joining on the customer ID, and we're doing a count of login dates that are less than or equal to each one of these values, so that we get a running total of cumulative logins for each one of these dates that pertain to a specific customer and their install date. Cool, so we're ready for the next step. let's call this final table ag. So we're gonna do a date diff between the date and the install date to get days since install. And this value is always increasing, and it's gonna be on the x-axis. And then what we also need is we're going to take the install date and we're going to reset it to the first day of the month so that we can aggregate this data to both August 1st, 2023 and September 1st, 2023 so that we can compare these two install cohorts to each other and get an idea if one retained better than the other, so on and so forth. Do a date format on this install date, and I'm just going to borrow this down here. We can call this install month, and let's actually make that the first column. Put a comma there. And then we want a distinct count of customer IDs. And then we're going to sum our cumulative logins. And we can call this total logins. So we are aggregating here, and we're going to group by these two fields here. Let's put a final group by and celebrate almost being done. Okay, let's run this query. Alright, so here's our data. Let's go ahead and move this over to Excel. Alright, so here in Excel we have our data. We have our install months, so that's going to be August or September of 2023. Our days since install, the total number of installs, and then the total number of logins by days since install, and this is cumulative. So what we're trying to figure out is if someone installed 10 days ago, they could have potentially logged in 10 times and gotten a perfect retention rate of 100%. So we need to get that percentage. So I will show you how to do that now. We'll call this percent days retained, right? So what we need to do is figure out how many total days are there that an install could have potentially logged in. Well, it's going to be installs times the days since install, right? So for example, if we look at row 8, we had this total of installs. And if we take this and we multiply it by 7, that's the total number of potential days they could have logged in. Now, they're not going to log in all 37,000 days with a retention rate of almost 100%. It'll be a lot less than that. And it'll actually be this value divided by this value. So let's do that now. Now let's put this into a pivot table so that we can compare the two install cohort months against each other, so August and September of 2023. Install month here, We will do days since install here in rows, and the percent of days retained. Let's get rid of that blank. Let's do a label filter. Let's just do 30 days. First 30 days after install. Let's make that a percentage. Okay. Let me see if I can increase the text here just a little bit so that we can see what we are looking at. This black and bold. Let me move the legend down to the bottom here. I can increase this just a little more. Okay, so this is a pretty cool analysis. I really like it because you are comparing two install cohorts to each other, August and September of 2023. And what you're primarily asking is, for example, I know that a customer installed 10 days ago. Did they log in all 10 days? And the answer here is no, right? The percentage is 20%, meaning of those 10 days that they could have logged in, they only logged in on 20% of those 10 days, so roughly 2 login days. So this is a pretty cool way to measure the retention and engagement of your customer installs. If you like this tutorial, please continue to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.